The desert has a way of testing a man. It strips him down, leaves only what's real, and sometimes what's broken. Caleb Dawson was just another cowboy who'd lost more than his share. His ranch, his family, his pride. All he had left was Dusty, his horse, his last companion in a world that had already taken too much. But on one fateful evening, beneath a sky burning gold and violet, Dusty screamed. A rattlesnake's fangs had struck deep. Caleb fought desperate, but he could feel life slipping from the only friend he had left. Alone, on his knees in the dust, a cowboy cried. And then, out of the fading light, came an Apache woman. Her presence was both a shock and a mystery. What she carried wasn't just medicine. It was something far greater, something Caleb never knew he was missing. So what did she say? That changed everything. Before we dive into this powerful Wild West tale, take a moment, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this story with someone who loves history, legends, or just a reminder of hope. These stories from the frontier deserve to live on, and your support helps us keep telling them. Twilight fell heavy across the desert, laying streaks of gold and violet over the land, the kind of light that makes a man wonder if the sky is burning, or if it's just the day sighing its last breath. Caleb Dawson rode slow, head bowed, shoulders slumped, hat pulled low as though he wanted to disappear into the dust. His horse, Dusty, moved with the same weary rhythm, hooves dragging across brittle earth. They weren't just man and animal anymore. After years together through storms, debts, and long silences, Dusty had become his brother, his one listener, his one friend. You see, the West can be cruel. It can take a man's land, his money, even his reputation. Caleb had lost all three. Whispers in town told his story better than he could. Failure, debt, shame. But out here, none of that mattered. Out here, it was just him and Dusty had never judged him. That evening, as the sun bled low on the horizon, Caleb felt something unusual sting his eyes. Tears. A cowboy doesn't cry for himself, he thought. But maybe for a horse. Then it happened. From a tangle of brush came a sudden hiss, a violent coil. Dusty screamed and reared back, the sound tearing through the desert silence. Caleb was thrown hard to the ground. He rolled, dazed, and saw it. The rattlesnake. Its head flashed like a whip, fangs burying deep into Dusty's leg. The horse's eyes rolled white, foam at his lips. The snake rattled once more and vanished into the shadow, leaving only the poison behind. Caleb scrambled on his knees, hands trembling as he pressed them to the wound. He pulled his knife, cut into the flesh, sucked, spat, bound the leg tight with his bandana. He worked frantically, but he knew the venom was faster than him. Dusty's body shook, breath ragged, his heartbeat slowing. "Don't take him," Caleb whispered hoarsely, his tears cutting paths through the dust on his face. Not him too. Memories rushed in. His ranch sold off, neighbors turning their eyes away, a sister's letter returned unopened. Everything he had lost, all of it boiled down to this last companion. And now even Dusty was slipping away. Caleb pressed his forehead to Dusty's mane, sobbing into the horse's coarse hair, the smell of sweat and earth clinging to him. The prairie gave no answer, only the hum of crickets and the fading heartbeat under his hand. Dusty's legs buckled. He sank to the ground, sides heaving, eyes dimming. Caleb knelt there helpless, knife loose in his hand, watching the light fade from the one soul that had never abandoned him. Then, out of the dusk, came a sound. Soft, steady, footsteps. Caleb raised his head. Through the fading streaks of sunset, a figure appeared. A woman. Her dark hair was braided back, a woven pouch slung at her side. She walked as if the desert itself carried her. Caleb's heart jumped. His first instinct was fear. His hand went to the revolver at his hip. Every settler's tale he'd heard warned that an Apache on open land meant danger. But before he could speak, she was kneeling beside Dusty, calm and unafraid. Her hands moved over the wound, sure and steady. Without even glancing at him, she pressed her ear to Dusty's chest, then opened her pouch. Inside were herbs, strips of cloth, and a small stone pestle. She murmured words in her own tongue, low and rhythmic, her fingers stroking Dusty's mane. Caleb's revolver slid back into its holster almost without him realizing. His voice cracked as he asked, "Can you save him?" She looked up briefly, her gaze dark and steady. "Snake's poison runs quick," she said softly. "But I have a cure." Morning spilled pale and gold over the prairie. Dust clung to Caleb's boots as he walked beside Dusty, who limped but lived. Each step, each steady breath from the horse, filled Caleb's chest with a swelling gratitude he didn't know how to hold. The Apache woman walked alongside him, silent as dawn. She hadn't given her name, hadn't asked for his story, but somehow her presence told him she already knew enough. By midday, they reached town. Caleb expected to feel relief, but instead, shame crept in. The wooden boardwalks creaked with judgment. Shop windows flashed back his reflection like cruel mirrors. Whispers rose the moment townsfolk saw him and saw her. "He's fallen so low," one woman sneered loudly. "He keeps company with savages now." The words struck him like stones. Caleb flushed, heat crawling up his neck, but he kept his eyes fixed on Dusty. The woman walked with her chin lifted, her silence louder than the mockery around them. Sheriff Amos stepped from his office, hat low, eyes narrowed. "Dawson," he said flatly, "you still owe half your grazing fees. And mind who you bring through town. Some company ain't welcome." His gaze lingered on the woman. Caleb's throat tightened. His shame knotted him silent. But the Apache woman? She stood calm, unbent, as if his words had bounced harmlessly against stone. Caleb wished he could borrow even an ounce of that strength. Inside the general store, Caleb bought flour, salt, and a sack of coffee. He hesitated, then added beans and sugar, things he didn't really need, but offered to her anyway. The shopkeeper raised a brow when Caleb handed the items to the woman. Caleb ignored it. She accepted them with a quiet nod, a small grace that carried more weight than the whole store's worth of goods. That night they camped by a creek. Moonlight shimmered across the water like silver. Dusty grazed nearby, his limp easing. The woman ground herbs between stones, reapplying a poultice to his wound. Caleb watched, struck by the patience in her hands. "Why help me?" he asked finally. His voice cracked under the question. "You don't know me. You don't owe me." She never stopped working, never even looked up. "Because life is sacred," she said softly. "Even the life of a horse, even the life of a man who cries." The words pierced deeper than he expected. No one in town saw him that way. To them, he was failure wrapped in boots. But to her, his tears weren't weakness. They were proof he could still feel. Caleb reached into his pack and pulled out the last of his coffee rations. He poured a tin cup, slid it across the fire. She hesitated, then took it. For the first time, her mouth softened into the faintest smile. Caleb felt something stir inside him. Not fire, not pride, but warmth. The warmth of being seen.